There is currently 8 Giga coasters out there in the world, coasters which are over 300 foot tall but under 400 foot tall. These are some of the best coasters anywhere in the world. Obviously we have coasters like Orion, we have Leviathan, some of these fantastic B&M coasters, Fury 325 probably being B&M's best creation in terms of a coaster that display fantastic speed, essentially larger models of their hyper coasters. We have coasters like Intimidator 305, which is an Intamin Giga coaster, which is known to have some of the most intense elements anywhere on any coaster in the world. And then we have coasters like Red Force, which are, you know, essentially smaller versions of the strata coasters like King Dakar or Top Thrill Dragster, all of which are fantastic. And with a lot of speculation online I've been seeing over the past few months as an enthusiast about where the next Giga coaster could possibly go, I think this is a really sort of interesting topic to sit down here and discuss today. So we've got to have a bit of a discussion about where will the next Giga coaster come to in the world, discussing where I think the most realistic option for a park is to get the Giga coaster and what kind of Giga coaster I can see them possibly getting. If you do enjoy today's video, please do give it a like, it massively helps out the channel. Subscribe to Coasternaut for more videos like this in the future, and please do let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinions on where a Giga coaster could potentially come in the future and where you could see one coming in the future too. Thank you for watching, and let's get into today's video. So then, let's go about this geographically. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Starting with where I am here in the UK. Admittedly, we are getting Hyperia, which is the first coaster to break a UK coaster height record in 30 years next year in 2024 at Thorpe Park. However, it's taken so long for us to break our previous height record, and they've only broken it by 1 feet. You know, 235 foot is what Blackpool advertised the big one as. I know that's not the official height, but you know, they've officially only broken it by sort of 1 foot. I think that, you know, it's going to be too hard. It's going to take too long for a Giga coaster to come to the UK, if one ever does. And I think, you know, Alton Towers has a height restriction. One's definitely not going to come to Blackpool because the big one is their sort of masterpiece and their very short space for land. And all of the other parks in the country can't really afford one. I think Thorpe Park would be the only realistic option for a Giga in the future, but you know, they've just got Hyperia. That's going to be their standout coaster for a long time. It's not going to come to Thorpe Park anytime soon. The UK will unfortunately not get a Giga coaster anytime soon. I wish it would do. It'd be fantastic for me to be able to get on one. So much easier than having to travel over to places like the US. I just think, you know, it'd be great for us to have one, but I can't see us getting one anytime soon. I think a really interesting topic of discussion, and one of the more likely places, is potentially over in the Middle East. Obviously, we're supposed to be getting Falcon's Fury over the next few years, which is going to break every record for every coaster. It's going to, you know, break the speed record, the height record, the length record, all of that. Fantastic. We're going to be obviously not including that because, you know, that is a coaster currently under construction, but potential another Giga coaster, I could see that coming to the Middle East. Obviously not Six Flags Qiddiya, they're already getting that one with Falcon's Fury, but potentially another park in the Middle East. There's obviously lots of parks in Dubai, maybe Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, or I'm sure obviously that area has so much wealth in the world, obviously a lot of oil countries around there, and they are massively starting to expand their tourism within that region. I can potentially see a lot of new parks arising over the next few years. You know, we've seen SeaWorld open recently in Dubai, Bollywood Parks, Dubai. There's obviously just loads of parks opening out there in that region of the world at the minute, and I can potentially see another Giga coaster coming to that area at the minute. If I was to place a bet, probably Ferrari Land in Abu Dhabi, because they seem to have obviously spent a lot of money on coasters in the past. Maybe SeaWorld because they're expanding rapidly, but I'm not able to fully lock down a park within that region, but I could see one potentially coming to the Middle East. A potential Middle East sort of coaster wars, obviously with Six Flags Qiddiya opening there, a lot of new parks opening in that area of the world at the minute. With the increase in tourism around there, I could potentially see another Giga coaster come to the Middle East at some point. If we're going to be sticking with Europe, I think the only real option is probably Energylandia. I know people would love to say parks like Europa Park, but I can't see Europa Park really investing in that. Mack have never done a Giga coaster. It's obviously a park owned by the Mack family. They already have a B&M hypercoaster there. Unless Mack were to release a Giga, I can't see them going back to B&M again to get a Giga coaster. There's not many parks that have B&M Giga and a Hyper. I know a lot of parks do that have a B&M Giga, but you know, we really are only talking about a handful out there that have both a B&M Hyper and a Giga. So unless Mack come out with a Giga coaster option, I can't really see Europa Park getting one. Port of Ventura, probably not, no, because they've obviously got Red Force at Ferrari Land right next door. For me, it's got to be Energylandia. You know, they're such a rapidly expanding park. They're going to overtake Magic Mountain over the next few years and have the most coasters at any park in the world. But even then, you know, there's lots of reports online about the owner of Energylandia not wanting to spend more than $15 to $20 million on an investment. I think Zadra and Hyperion being their largest investments, and I think that's probably true. You know, I can't really see them spending more than that. You know, you look at all of their coaster editions so far, they do appear to be within that sort of price range, not ever anything absolutely massive. And I just can't see them ever going over that, really, unless they were to stop adding new coasters for a few years, build up a bit of money, and then go and spend it all on one larger investment in a few years. But that's just not something we've seen Energylandia do. So unfortunately, I can't really see a Giga coaster coming to any park within Europe. Over in the Oceania area, Australia, can't really see one coming around there. There's just not many parks in that area of the world. I think a really interesting place to talk about, though, is Japan and China. I'm not too familiar with the parks in China, but I could see one coming there eventually, because there isn't one there at the minute. I think over in Japan, though, obviously there is one at Nagashima Spyland, the old Morgan Hyper, Steel Dragon 2000. But maybe Fuji-Q Highland, they obviously have a lot of great coasters, but there isn't one there at the minute. Potentially, to compete one day with the other major park in Japan, they could add one, but I personally can't really see that happening. You know, they are quite close in location. Unless it was something very unique, maybe an Intamin Giga, I just can't really see that happening. So unfortunately, I can't quite see one coming to Japan either, but I would love to see one there as well, maybe, so you know, you can have the old classic in the Morgan, and then something maybe very new with something like Intamin. I think America is definitely the place where there is most likely to be one in the future. It's where the majority of the Giga coasters are at the minute, and I think we're definitely going to see one there again in the future. There's obviously a lot of rumours. We'll start with probably the two most common rumours at the minute. We have obviously Busch Gardens Tampa. They've just announced Phoenix Rising, their B&M inverted coaster for 2024. But prior to that announcement, there was a lot of Giga coaster rumours, I should say, coming to that park over the next few years. And I think this is obviously a smaller edition next year. It's a family coaster. They have added a lot of thrill coasters recently with the likes of Iron Gwazi, but I can definitely still see them getting a Giga coaster in the future. There's obviously a lot of parks in the Orlando and Florida area, and this is something very different to any of those parks there. It will probably be one of the best coasters in the whole area of Florida, and I think this is definitely the only park in the area that could probably build one. So maybe 2025, 2026, 2027, I think they probably will end up getting a B&M Giga coaster. I think, you know, Busch Gardens Williamsburg as well. I think both Busch Gardens parks could definitely get one. We've seen there was obviously those leaked plans for one to come in the old Dragonfire plot of land at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. So I think both parks have definitely looked into getting a Giga. I think it'd probably be maybe an Intamin Giga or something slightly different at Williamsburg. I think it'd definitely be a B&M coming to Tampa. But I think both the Busch Gardens parks are definitely parks to keep an eye on in the future. I think obviously, as well as that, we have Six Flags Magic Mountain on the West Coast. They've been teasing a Giga for the past few months. I just don't know with that, though. I've done a video on my channel already regarding this, so please go and watch that after this if you've not watched it already. I don't know. I see a lot of people saying they do think that Magic Mountain will get a Giga. It's obviously something that's missing within their lineup. But for me, I just can't see Six Flags spending that much money on a coaster. I'd love to be proven wrong. I think it'd be great for Magic Mountain to get that, you know, their true standout coaster. Keep adding coasters. They're obviously the park with the most coasters in the world at the minute, and it would be great to see that collection of coasters expand and really become one of the best coasters on the West Coast. There is obviously a lot of coasters coming to the California parks in the next few years. We have SeaWorld San Diego potentially getting a new coaster. Obviously, Universal Hollywood's getting a new coaster. Disney's doing a big expansion. So there is sort of a coaster wars going on within California as well, and maybe Magic Mountain's going to, you know, shock everyone and blow all those parks out the water and, you know, build the biggest coaster in California, you know, the only Giga around for miles and miles. But for me, I just can't personally see Six Flags spending that much money. Maybe because it's their flagship park, they will. Or if people know more about Magic Mountain than I do, I'd love to be proven wrong, and they could tell me that down below in the comments. But for me, just can't really see that happening. I think for me, if you're going to ask me to place money on where will the next Giga coaster go, for me, it's Busch Gardens Tampa or maybe Busch Gardens Williamsburg. But if you disagree with me, I'd love to hear down below in the comments. If you did enjoy today's video, please do give it a like. It massively helps out the channel. Subscribe to Coasternaut for more videos like this in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.